quick first impressions on this little ripper, the Nikon Z6III. Short version of my thoughts on this camera are, if you're in the Nikon ecosystem, just go out and get it. This camera is going to make you really happy. It's got incredible video features. It's great for photo, and you already know how to deal with Nikon's quirks. Now, Nikon made the D850. That was my workhorse DSLR for a long time, and I still think that was the best DSLR ever made. If that camera had better video capabilities, I probably would have never started this channel, and I'd probably still just be shooting with those and shooting video with those. But since the video side of things for the D850s was so terrible, I started looking into all these mirrorless cameras. So it's still my hope that Nikon will come out with a mirrorless version of the D850, but I don't think the Z8 was quite there, and this Z6III kind of shows they're still not quite there, at least on the video side of things. So what do I mean by this? Well, for example, there's no spinny wheel back here. It's just this mushy, sort of up, down, left, right button. I don't understand why there isn't a third spinny wheel, so you could have the whole exposure triangle here. The spinny wheel up front, the spinny wheel in the back, and then a third one, so you could have aperture, shutter speed, and ISO all spinning around at your fingertips. Instead, you've got to hold the button down and then spin a wheel, which I know is how Nikon has done it for a long time, and once used to, it's not that big of a deal. You can do it all with your right hand, which is cool. But I just feel like it's a missed opportunity. I will say that the grips on Nikon cameras are still my favorite of all cameras except maybe the SL2 and SL2S. At least for my fingers, the buttons kind of fall where my thumb wants to go. I don't need to take my eye away from the viewfinder to like hit the magnifying button or hit the I button. I just kind of know where it is, the AF on button. So they do a really good job of that, but I still would like that third spinning wheel. Another little bit of a miss. On the Nikon Z8 and Z9, they have a sensor protector that comes down and protects the sensor so when you're changing lenses, dust doesn't get in there. They didn't program the shutter to come down on this camera and do that, which is crazy because when I'm changing lenses, when you put the lens on, you can hear the shutter come down. It's nuts. So I don't know why they didn't just make it so it keeps dust off the sensor. That makes no sense to me. I really don't like these doors, these flaps. As you can see, it just gets trapped on the side of the cage here, and I just feel like these are going to rip off eventually. I really don't like that. I am glad they have USB-C, which allows charging, and a full HDMI port. That was really good. The 5-point-something dot EVF is really nice. It is as bright as Nikon advertised, and it's kind of the minimum, I think, for a camera like this. It's kind of the EVF that the Z8 and Z9 should have at least have had, so that's a nice upgrade. Back screen is nice. I think it's 2-something dots. I like the articulating screen. I would prefer the Sony A1 II style, what comes up and out. I feel like Nikon needs to do that to sort of catch up. I love that the switch for video and photos in the back here like this, it makes it super quick, and Nikon's are really snappy, so when it switches from photo to video, there isn't much lag. It has separate settings for photo and video, which I think is really smart. But that's kind of also where you get into like sort of like the fidgety things about this camera. Besides the fact that the menu system is quite a mess, and I'm sure once you use Nikon, you get used to it, but like to have the pencil and then the camera and the video in different settings for all three or in different places and it doesn't make sense. The whole pencil menu doesn't really make sense. I just feel like they should break that up and put that in the camera and the video section and leave it at that. But anyways, the actual autofocus modes that work best with this camera are different between photo and video. So it's less of a big deal because this can separate out photo and video settings. But it's just kind of the weirdness of Nikon cameras and why like you have to get used to them, but also like they take longer to set up and get right. In video, it's AFF that works best, and then in photo, it's AFC that works best. Should they just both be AFC? I don't get it. Similarly, like in the video section, like most of the stuff that you would want to get a good image out of this isn't set up correctly out of the box. It has some incredible options like ProRes RAW internal recording. I'm not sure any other small mirrorless camera has that right now. So that's like incredible. And N-Log is fine. The red LUTs are really nice that you can get for this camera. I'll put a link below where you can get those Nikon red LUTs in case that's not clear when you go look for them. But then there's like a whole bunch of things missing video feature wise. There's no shutter angle, there's no ASA, there's no open gate recording. It should really have that. Like, I feel like right now Nikon is the underdog. So they need to put in all the features they can to sort of come out on top, right? So they need to put all the Panasonic firmware features in here. Anamorphic D-squeeze, ASA instead of ISO, shutter angle, open gate recording, frame lines, all those things. That is just firmware and it should be in this camera. This sensor and this processor certainly can handle this. Nikon just put shutter angle in the Z9. I don't understand why they didn't put it in here at release also, since they were clearly working on it. So that kind of like sums up my thoughts on this camera. It's like one or two firmware updates away from not being the underdog camera that like kind of catches it up and pushes it past the other cameras in this category, like the A7 IV and the R6 Mark II. It's just like not enough. It doesn't have all the things yet that would make you go, oh, if you get the Z6III, you have the best in this price point of video and photo features. As it is right now, the answer is like, this is really good, and if you don't have a mirrorless camera, this might be the way to go, especially with the Mega adapter that lets you use Sony lenses as well as the very nice Nikon glass. It's a really good starting point. But if you have other cameras, like this doesn't do everything you would want it to do. So you wouldn't be like, oh man, it's got like shutter angle, open gate, plus all the photo features are rad. Because like honestly, the photo experience is also like a little finicky. Getting the autofocus right isn't just like you turn it on and let it rip, like Sony and mostly like Canon. You got to kind of set it up right to make it work really well. So yeah, like I don't think it's there yet to make people want to jump to Nikon from other systems because of the functionality and features. But man, I feel like with a couple of firmware upgrades, they could make this camera that camera that has all those features. It's not really a hardware issue, except for this button back here, maybe, the sensor protector. But like, honestly, I could live without those if they had all these firmware improvements baked into this. Then I would be giving a glowing review, maybe just complaining about Nikon's skin tones. Like their colors are really nice, except I don't like their skin tones. Better for darker skin people, but for like lighter non-Asian people, the skin tones are a little plasticky in my opinion. But like that would be my only nit, and I would be like, hardly recommending this and showing you ways to fix the colors out of this camera. But as it is, a ripper. If you're in a Nikon system and thinking about getting it, worth it. Spend the money, go get it. If you're in a different system and wondering if it's time to switch, I'd say let's see what happens in a couple of firmware updates. So, have you tried the Nikon Z6III? Did you have similar reactions to me? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.